This has been a NowMedia Television feature presentation. All rights reserved. Broadcasting live from Houston, from the space city to the world. You are watching NowMedia Television.
Hey, welcome to Biz Talk TV. I'm your business guide and host, Michael Rager. Welcome us today on the NowMedia Television Network. Man, I hope you guys are having a great week and everything's going fine. I want to talk today a little bit about you starting a new business. Man, I hear it all the time. Business coach, hey guys, I want to start a new business. The first thing I want to ask you if you're going to start a new business is, number one, is this actually going to be a business or is this going to be a hobby? And I'm going to tell you the difference between the two. A business is going to make you money. A hobby is going to cost you a lot. I know, I'm a fisherman. I spend a lot of money on fishing gear. And we hear this thing all the time. I don't know if it's true or not. If you find something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, yada, yada, yada. If you're making $2 million a year making widgets, you're going to learn to love it. So learn to love something that makes you money. All right, learn to love that something that makes you money is something you got to do. But when we get going into our business, and we're going to talk a lot about this today with some of our guests, what's structure? How do I structure my company? Do I bring on partners? Do I not bring on my partners? Hey, am I inheriting my business from my family? Is something like that going on? But what do I got to do to minimize taxes, to protect me legally? All these things need to happen. You just can't just jump in and start making money without a plan. And the last thing you got to figure out, and I think this is the most important, is how are you going to fund your business? No matter what you do, businesses take money. They take time and they take money. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's not. Am I going to go out and am I going to actually go to the banks, or am I going to go to the SBA? Am I going to go somewhere and actually get money to help me start my business? Or am I going to take money that I already have? I've got a 401k, I've got a savings account, I got something. Do I go out and utilize that? People don't realize there's ways to potentially do that to minimize tax risks, and that's a tongue twister there, on going out to start your business. But that's why you gotta seek out professionals. Seek out the professionals like we're gonna have today on our TV show. This is gonna be awesome. We got some great people. We're gonna talk about key things to help you grow your business. So as a small business owner, you need to stay tuned and listen. There's gonna be great things today. So I'm your business guide, Michael Rager. We're gonna be right back. We're gonna come back with my good friend, Kat Becker, and we're gonna talk a little bit about your business. You go just enjoy this commercial break. Look at one of our sponsors, and we'll be back here right on Biz Talk TV with Michael Rager. I'm your business guide. We'll be back right after this.
If you have the perfect health insurance plan and you don't want to save any money, you might want to stop listening now. However, if you are like the rest of us who know that the number one cause of bankruptcy is unexpected medical costs due to subpar coverage, you really want to listen closely. Even if you owe 20% of your medical costs for a large claim, like cancer or a bad accident, it will wipe out the wealth you have worked for your entire career. That's why when it comes to choosing health insurance, it's important to get the right coverage for you and your family. I'm April Clark with Clark Health Insurance. My mission and passion is to simplify the process for small business owners, families, and self-employed individuals. Protect your health and start saving money on your insurance today.
Hey, welcome back to Biz Talk TV. I'm your host and business guide, Michael Rager. Hey, we're ready to get in. I got one of my favorite guests, one of my new favorite people, Kat Becker. Kat, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, Michael. Thanks so much for having me.
So where'd you go to this week? You're my traveling lady, and you're going everywhere around the world. Where were you this last week? What were you learning?
I was just in Dallas attending a 2-day training by private equity guru Adam Coffey. He's done several billion-dollar exits on businesses and has gone into over 56 different businesses and turned them around. So it was an incredible learning day. I must say, I feel like I learned more in those 2 days of actionable items than I learned in my entire MBA.
Nice. I love it. I love it. So let's get into our topic today. We're going to talk about inheriting a business. Now, this is kind of an interesting topic, and some of the things that I addressed in the beginning, whether you love the business or not, right? So
Yes.
that's an issue. If you're going to inherit mom or dad's business, do you have to love it?
It's such an interesting dynamic because in so many families, when they're inheriting the business, there's this assumption that the children are just going to take over, and they might not have ever even been asked the question, but there's this perception that we have to love what we do. And a lot of people miss the boat where they should be in love with business itself and the fundamentals of business, and the what you make is not necessarily relevant. And that's kind of a perfect tie-in to this training that I attended, because this businessman, Adam Coffey, when he goes into these businesses, he's never an expert in them. He doesn't know anything about them, but he knows the fundamentals of business and how to make that business successful without needing to know how to turn a wrench or, whatever the part of the business is. But one of the issues that also comes into play when you are inheriting a business from the parents is being able to ask the hard questions. If you were to inherit a business from someone else, you're taking over an existing business, there's going to be a lot of due diligence, and you need to have capable attorneys and counsel on either side to make sure that you can go through that. But what I've seen is a lot of times when people are taking over the family businesses, they're not necessarily feeling comfortable or empowered to ask those difficult questions because it's your parents, right? And so there's that sort of barrier of, your elders and being able to question them, because there's the assumption of, well, don't you trust me? And of course you need to trust but verify.
Yeah, I've coached a couple businesses that are family transitions right now, and I had one of them, and man, mom was still getting in the way. I mean, it transferred. Mom did everything, and she loved it, and she doesn't want to see her son make mistakes, but she won't let him go forward and make his own mistakes, and try to force him to use the same attorney, and let him choose. This is his business now. He needs to do it. And we had another one where, like just you said, the daughter didn't know she really wanted the business. And there's so many dynamics going on in there. And how can those dynamics be positive, and how can they be negative?
Family is complicated, no matter what. I mean, when I'm working with personal clients, so much of what we are working through is things that they came from their childhood. So if your childhood wasn't great, it might not be great to go into business, but it really comes down to the subconscious, and a lot of how we are formed, our opinions about ourselves and our opinions about the world come from our childhood. And it's very difficult for parents to see their children as they have evolved and grown, because they're still thinking them of, that teenager that made that bad decision, or, that was still learning and was still growing and was still evolving into the person that they were. So it's really hard for parents to be able to see children as they are currently, and not to be taking in things that happened in their past and kind of coloring how they think about them. So that can make things very challenging as well, because the child will also allow that to happen, to put themselves back in there. It's sort of the same way that there's the phrase that you're never like the king or queen in your own family. They never see you the same way that other people see you. And so it can perpetuate patterns that maybe don't exist in your life if you were going into a different business. So you have to be really cognizant of what those patterns are and what you're bringing into the business, so that you're not taking in family drama to create, a whole new situation that doesn't even need to be there to begin with.
Are there any steps that families should take in that pre-transition phase? Is there things they should do before this happens? Are there things they should do to kind of hand off the baton and get the heck out of the way? How should they do this?
And this is actually steps that you'll need in any business when you're having some sort of succession plan. Like, you need to know what your exit is. And that's something whenever you get into any business, what is your exit strategy? And most business owners get into their business because they love it and they don't think about what their exit strategy is. They think, I'm going to be in this business forever, without thinking about, how am I actually going to make money when I exit this? What multipliers can I bring to the business because of the value that I've added through my ownership? So just as you would do an exit strategy with any sort of business, that definitely applies in the family. And that's where having each side having their competent counsel is a really key step, and knowing in years in advance and having a plan on how you're going to execute that. Is there debt that's existing in the business? Is that going to be part of the strategy to reduce that debt? Are there family members that are getting paid that maybe shouldn't be getting paid? You see that a lot in family businesses, because they say, well, I'm the owner of the business, and they confuse that with being an employee of the business. And so how those funds are being paid out is very crucial to break that in. And that's about having those hard conversations and having that competent counsel to represent the person taking it over can make that much more on a business level than on the personal family level, than if it's just discussing in amongst yourselves. And this is something that's valuable no matter what the level of the business is, because as long as you can keep that professionalism throughout the process, then you're not bringing the personal and the emotions and the history to the process.
Yeah, it's like one of the things we were talking about before we went on camera, and I had to deal with it a little bit yesterday with a client. Emotions ruin businesses more than facts do, don't they? Because emotions just get in the way.
Yes. They absolutely do. And there's a reason to that. Mm-hmm. So if we look at the parts of the brain, we have our reptilian brain, which is kind of down here at the bottom. And this is going to be our fight, our flight, our freeze, or our fawn. Mm-hmm. And then you have the limbic system of the brain, which is your emotions. And I call it the ocean of emotion, because sometimes that ocean can be calm and sometimes that ocean can be really rough. And once you get past the ocean of emotion, that's when you get into critical thought. So when we have these things happen that affect our reptile brain and then cause the ocean of emotion to be rougher or not, we can't get to the critical thinking piece, which is where we need to go. So it really is a skill to be able to move from your reptile brain, cross the ocean of emotion, and be able to get into your critical thinking.
Yeah, that's so important. I see it all the time. Emotions just get in place. I want to go back to something we started with about loving the business versus loving what you do and loving business. I love that, because I see people chase dreams and hobbies, saying that I'm going to make this a business, and it's still a hobby, and they spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and never make money. How do you as a coach go in and help people understand that it's really about loving business itself versus loving the business?
That's such a tricky one, and it's not an easy process. So thank you for that very difficult question.
Well, thanks. That's what I'm here for. I don't want to give you softballs. Come on.
It's not easy. It's not easy, and I think there's a piece of removing the ego to it, because people fall so much in love with their idea, and that becomes part of their identity. And that's where ego really gets in the way. Ego, and a great book to help understand this is called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And that book, it's so heady and it's so intense, but it really breaks down the process of how to separate the ego from kind of the I am. They are two separate things. And so I encourage anyone who's in that position to consider that book, or to consider other places to learn how to separate that. Because it really comes down to, do you want to get it right, or do you want to be right? And when ego's in the way, people want to be right, and they want to make sure that, I staked my claim. I said I'm going to do this business. I want to succeed. And then they can't step back and go, maybe this wasn't the best option. What is a better option that we can do to do instead? And a lot of times there's the excitement factor. You get excited about all the new things without realizing you have to master the mundane tasks in and out of business as well, and really fall in love with doing those things and doing them well in order to be successful.
Yeah, I'm there. I used to tell my clients, what do you want to be? You want to be right, or you want to be rich? And a lot of times they'll choose right. I just don't know. It's okay. So, Catman, this has been a great interview. I always love talking to you. How do people get a hold of you if they want to, pick your brain a little bit, professionally?
Absolutely. So on the more emotional side of things, I do personal coaching and group coaching through coachwithkat.com. And then I also work with teams on more of the professional side, and that is resultsetter.com. And there's a lot of the same theories that I apply from the individual coaching on how to have teams be able to build team dynamics and to really get through some difficult situations.
Well, that's awesome, Kat. Well, thanks a lot. I can't wait to hear about your next adventure, wherever you go, and next time we talk. But looking forward to getting together outside of here, and I know we've been talking about it, and looking forward to make it happen really soon. So you have yourself a great week.
Absolutely. I don't have any travel coming up for the next couple of weeks, so we can make it happen.
We're going to make that happen. I'm going to hold you to it. Awesome. So you have a great day, Kat. We'll talk to you soon. So this is Michael Rager, your business guide. We're going to be back. We're going to talk a little bit, just kind of move on what we were talking about. We're going to talk exit strategies with our tax expert, Kristen Gunderson. So don't go away. We'll be back right after this. This is Biz Talk.
Hi, my name is Elias Basabe, founder of Little Maria's Cafe restaurant in West Houston, located in 2901 Wilkers Drive, Suite 137, first floor. Here you will find a family-friendly and relaxed environment where you can enjoy a delicious homemade breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We know you need to get to work fast, and we want you to enjoy a tasty, quality, and healthy homemade food. So come and visit us for a great nutritious meal at an affordable price. We specialize in tasty breakfasts, deli sandwiches, fish, even barbecue cookouts. Little Maria's Cafe has it all. We only use the great quality of Boar's Head meats and products. Just like you, we love to get you up early. Little Maria's Cafe is open from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can dine in with us during breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or we can have it ready for you for pickup. Visit us today on the first floor of the CMPC Center at 2901 Wilkers Drive, Suite 137, first floor. Order now at 832-667-8376, Little Maria's Cafe.
Hey, welcome back to Biz Talk TV. I'm your business guide, Michael Rager. I'm so excited. We're going to talk about something really fun. Exit strategy. Nobody wants to think about the end of their business when they start. Kristen Gunderson, how are you today?
Hey, thank you so much for having me on the Biz Talk show today, Michael. I'm glad to be here.
Man, so we were talking a little bit before we got on here, exit strategy.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to think about the end, You were talking about Stephen Covey, beginning with the end in mind. That's one of the most important things. So when you're looking at your customers, how do you start talking to them about exit strategy?
Well, that's a really great question. One of the first things, like when you get started with a business, you should have the end in mind. Like, where do you see this going? When do you want to retire? Do you want to be doing your business for the rest of your life? Do you have a plan? Like, you should really think about what the end in mind is for your business. Do you want this to be able to be passed on to your kids? Do your kids even want this? Do you want to be able to do this for 20 years and then sell your business and retire? Do you want to be able to have your business, sell it, but maybe still be a consultant and work in that industry still? So those are really great things to think about when you are first getting started with your business. So if you don't have that now is the time to start thinking about what do you want to do with your business in the years to come.
Well, one of the really hard things that I tell my client is, I'm a fisherman, right? And I love the ocean fish. And I said, look, if you let me take you where I want to go, I'm going to take you to the beach. If you're a mountain person, you're not going to like time at the beach. It's going to be too hot and it's going to be nasty. Because if you don't know where you're going, you can't build it, right?
Right.
And so, but here's the other thing we talked about a little bit. 98% of businesses don't sell because they want to. They sell because they have to. So how should business owners start preparing to sell?
Yeah. Well, the really great thing is, something to think about is when you become 65 and you decide that you want to sell your business, that is not the right time to I want to sell my business today or maybe tomorrow. You really got to think about it about 3 years in advance of I want to sell my business in about 3 years, and you got to do a lot of planning. This is your biggest asset, your biggest payout that you could possibly have in your lifetime, and it could set your family up and your kids up for success in their lives and set you up for retirement, but it has there's a lot of stuff that needs to go into place. So about 3 years in advance is the perfect time to start thinking about, I want to sell my business, and then get into action of what do I need to do to sell my business.
Yeah, I know. I work with a couple of business brokers, and people come to them and like, hey, I'm going to sell my business. We haven't done anything, and we're like, hey, well, now we got to slap lipstick on the pig. This business is not pretty. They think it's worth way more than it really is.
Exactly.
And so what are some of the key things that people should be looking at and focusing on to get ready to sell their business?
Okay, so there's a few people that you need to get in talk with in advance. The first one is a tax strategist. So you need to tell them what you're planning on doing, and you might not even be living in the correct state. If you live in California, they're going to tax you when you sell it out the wazoo. So they may be able to help you figure out, are you in the correct state? Maybe you need to create an estate or something, but they're going to be able to give you some tax advice up front on what you need to do ahead of time to sell your business and you're not taxed out at the wazoo. And then the next thing you need to think about is an accountant. You really need to get with a good CPA who can help you with this, because everyone in your business, every business owner, they want to reduce their taxes, right? So they're writing off all kinds of stuff that they really shouldn't be, but they don't want to pay, they want to reduce their net profit so they don't have to pay a lot in taxes. Well, when you're buying a business, you got to think about the other side of it. They want to make sure that they're buying a business that is very profitable and that they can afford to pay the note on the business and pay themselves, and the business is going to continue to grow. So most businesses, they're growing like this, right? They might be doing a little bit of growth, but when you are like, you know what, it's 3 years, maybe 5 years, I want to get ready to sell the business, we need to bend that growth curve from this to this. And what you really want to start focusing on is having a 30% year-over-year growth. And what that does is it keeps it from the steady plane and it grows it up, it bends it, and then a person who's coming to buy your business, they're like, wow, this is what the business has been doing lately. I know that I can take this and I'll still be successful with it. It'll still be able to pay the note, it'll be able to pay me, and I'll be able to do what I want to do with it, and it won't be stagnant. So make sure you bend that growth curve ahead of time. And then you really got to think about what you've been spending your money on, what you've been writing off, and you need to help with the CPA, that accountant, because you're going to have your financials that you've been having, writing off the second house, or, Uncle Jimmy who's been dead for a year, or, just some other things that people write off because they want to reduce their bottom line, for they don't have to pay as much in taxes. So that CPA is going to have to basically come up with 2 sets of financials for your business. One of what you've been doing, and the other one to be able to adjust the EBITDA. So all those adjustments of, Uncle Jimmy that's no longer there, the second house that you've been writing off, and all the other stuff that you've been writing off, you need to have adjustments to the EBITDA, because what the people are going to be buying on is the EBITDA. And what that means is your earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So they're paying on a multiple. And if your business is between 1 and I think it's 15 million, the EBITDA, the multiple of the EBITDA is 4 to 6%, or 4 to 6 times what the EBITDA is. That's what that payout is. As your business gets higher and higher in revenue, becomes more of unique, because down there's a lot of small businesses that are fragmented and they all kind of make about the same. But the higher your revenue is, the higher that EBITDA, the multiple of the EBITDA gets. So that's another thing that you really want to focus on, is getting that up as high as possible. And yes, you'll have to pay taxes, but that's why you want to get with the tax strategist.
Yeah. One of the interesting things you said that I loved is you said, look at 30%.
Yes.
30%. And here's where people, I think right now, they get lost. They get talking to people on the internet and they say, we're going to grow your business 100%. That doesn't happen, does it?
It's hard. You really have to have a plan and a strategic action in place in order to do it at 30%.
Yeah, one of my friends, Cameron Harold, he wrote a book called Double Double, and it's all about doubling revenue and doubling profit every 3 years. Mm-hmm. Well, he knows what he's talking about because he was the COO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK. They went from 100,000 to 300 million. With that strategy, yeah, they had great years and they did this, but planning this and looking for that's very, very important. Now, when we start looking at EBITDA and all these different things, how should a business owner, besides a tax strategist, do we got to start looking at lawyers? Do we got to start looking at financial advisors? Who else do we need to bring in?
A commercial banker.
Okay.
So the tax strategist, the accountant, and the next one you want to talk to is a commercial banker. They're like the real estate person for selling your business, because they know everyone who's in the market for buying a business. They know everyone who maybe wants to merge or do acquisitions. Like, they know people who are desperate to buy a business or who have been looking for a deal or know a good deal. So you definitely want to start talking with the commercial banker also. That would be the next one. And then the very last piece to bring in after the deal is made and they're doing the due diligence on the business, that's when you bring in the lawyer. Make sure it's a really good lawyer who specializes in selling and buying businesses, like that type of work, because like 4 words, if the other lawyer changes that contract, like that could really screw over you, and you may not know it until it's too late. So make sure you have that good lawyer, but that's the last piece that comes in right before you're ready to sell, and just kind of dotting all the I's, crossing the T's, and making sure that you're set up for success.
And do you have any tool, like we've got a tool on our website that's 18 things that they need to look at. Do you have any tools that you give out to your customers that can really help them prepare for this?
Well, that's a really great idea. Like, I need to come up with that.
We should talk. We can share that tool.
Yeah, exactly.
So we got about a minute left. What's something the last thing people should think about, before they go sell their business, and then how do people get a hold of you so they can start working with you to start planning?
I would say just sit down and do a strategic plan of what you want your business to look like with the end in mind. Sit down and do that this weekend when you got time, and really kind of map that out and map out a growth, like get your goals in line. And how you can get a hold of me is you can find me on social media. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Gunderson's Bookkeeping, or you can give us a call, 936-372-2661.
And also, I'm going to tell you, if you're on the north side, you got to look at this lady. She's a networking guru. She's out all the time. I'm watching her on Facebook do all these cool things. So if you're on the north side of Houston, up there, the Woodland Spring, get a hold. I'm sure she's got some great events for you to go to, especially if you like to drink a beer.
Sure
I've seen that. I've been seeing that. So, man, Kristen, thanks so much. I appreciate it. We need to talk about those tools and kind of go from there. So I'm Michael Rager, your business guide. We're going to be right back on Biz Talk TV, and we're going to talk a little bit of law. So stay tuned.
Would you like to sleep better, fall asleep faster, and wake up feeling rested and have more energy? I'm Marisa Burres with My Vital C, and our company has been producing ES60 for over 30 years, a Nobel Prize winning molecule that was discovered in Rice University in Houston. This molecule is responsible for the longest longevity test ever done in the history. My Vital C products contain ES60, and we have hundreds of testimonials reporting that with only 1 teaspoon a day, it could help with mental clarity, provide more energy, better sleep, and other amazing benefits. It's not too late to fix your sleep and get the energy you need to be more productive. Follow the link below, www.vitales60.com, or contact us at 832-463-1919 and 888-441-1993, and email us at marisa@myvitalc.com.
You probably already know that first impressions are never forgotten. However, did you also know the way you feel about yourself contributes to your quality of life and the opinions of others? Hi, my name is Kristen Gunderson. My mission is to help people by flipping the switch inside their body, which in turn will help them to feel better and do more. In fact, once you feel your best, you will be able to pour into others, keep your cup full, and reach every goal you have set up for yourself, whether it's personal, family, or business related. The way you feel will dictate the way you think and the way you live your life. Feeling your best is necessary to achieve your goals. You deserve to put yourself first. Let me help you flip the switch so you can feel better and do more. Let's talk. I know I can help.
Hey, welcome back to Biz Talk TV. I'm your business guide, Michael Rager. I am so excited about this next segment. I'm my good friend, David Murphy. David, how are you today?
I am fabulous this morning. You, sir?
Oh, man, unbelievable, unbelievable. You're sitting out there in Idaho today, aren't you?
Yes, I am in my Idaho office. Beautiful, sunshiny. Here you've got some cold coming that way to Houston.
It's cold, but it's beautiful. I mean, it was beautiful. I can't say anything about it, man. It's been awesome. We had some storms yesterday, but all that good stuff. Well, let's get into this segment here, man. I got guys all the time. We're starting a new business. We're gonna get out. You know, do I do an LLC, an S corp, a C corp? You know, Mike, what do I do? David, what do we do?
Well, you know, that's a really good question, and you make a statement that gets confused by people a lot of time. The statutory entity types that are allowed in the state of Texas, or that are recognized in the state of Texas, partnerships. You can be a limited partnership, limited liability partnership, limited liability company, or an incorporated company. There really isn't such a thing as a C corp or an S corp as a business type. That's a tax election. Well, but in that direction, I mean, what do you want this business to be?
Well, I think that's important too, because they don't know, right? We were just talking with, you know, with Kristen and Kat. You know, we got to begin with the end in mind. So when I'm beginning with the end in mind, how does that help me figure out which entity I decide that helps me in the long run as a business owner?
Well, I mean, all the business structures in Texas are going to protect you personally from liability as long as you maintain the corporate veil and you keep segregation from your personal assets and business assets, things that she was talking about as well. But what do you, if you're starting with the end in mind, what is your end goal? What is your purpose of your business? And, you know, depending upon what type of action you're trying to put together, whether it's an operating entity or an investment entity, maybe it's a holding company entity, that's going to have a lot to do with what type of structure you put together. Each of them have their own pros and cons. LLCs are wonderful. They don't have as many statutory requirements to maintain the corporate veil as an incorporated company does. You don't have to do the annual minutes and the annual meetings. I still suggest it. It's plan for your business, just like she was telling you, the previous guest. But what do you want this thing to be? What do you want to look like? Are you looking at raising a lot of capital on a continuous basis? And if you're going to have multiple rounds of capital, the incorporated entity under a stockholder position is maybe your best vehicle. An LLC, it's like the difference between an LLC and an incorporated company is a pizza pie versus a pizzeria. The LLC is a pizza pie. There's only so much pie. You can cut it up into little bitty pieces, but there's only so much pie. You only have 100% of the LLC membership. On the other hand, an incorporated company, that's the pizzeria. I can go bake a pizza and sell it in the public. That's the first initial offerings of shareholdings. And if I need to raise more capital, then I can bake another pie and resell it and authorize more shares. So what are you going to be doing with this business? And you need a good business consultant and a good business attorney to talk to figure out, and an accountant to talk to figure out what's going to be the best avenue for you. There isn't a one size fits all answer, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. We were talking last night about the business that I have, you know, that we're growing out, our whiteboards and whiskey stuff. And that's a lot of the questions I'm going now. Okay, how are we going to do it? Because, you know, I've got international entities. I've got domestic entities. There's a lot of different things. So when people come to a lawyer like you, how do they figure out that, you know, David Murphy is the right lawyer for me?
Well, that's a whole different animal of a question, Michael, but I would tell every client, every friend, you're starting a relationship with that professional. whether it's your business coach, your CPA, your attorney, your bookkeeper, financial planning group, that's a relationship. So interview a bunch of people. Figure out who you want to go on this journey with, who you can enjoy this journey with, who you can have a direct conversation with, and they're talking with you, not to you. Because if you're going to be a successful business owner, this is going to be a journey, and you need to create that mastermind team around you. And those all need to be people that you can have relationships with. They're not just people that send you a bill that you got to pay.
Yeah, it really is putting together that team, and that's part of it, and that's still that goes into what you said. They're part of your pizzeria, They're people that are doing things in the pizzeria. I love that analogy on growing the business that way. Now, how do I decide what's the number one indicator, pizza versus pizzeria? If I'm that guy that's just starting out, and can I switch from pizza to pizzeria?
Yes, you can actually switch from the pizza to the pizzeria from the perspective of how you're taxed. Again, you made the statement earlier about, am I an S corp or am I a C corp? Well, those are tax elections under the Internal Revenue Code. It's not an entity type. If you're an LLC, if you choose that entity type, statutory entity type, then you can be anything in the tax code. It's a tax chameleon. You can be a disregarded entity, which is essentially it's just filing on your personal tax returns. You can be taxed as a partnership. You can be taxed as an S corp, which an S corp is a small corporation under the IRCs. And in that situation, you're paying yourself a salary, but the S corp still is a pass-through entity. You're still having to pass through all of the revenue profits that you make to yourself for your personal tax returns. And then you get to the cat daddy, the C corp, which isn't the best thing for everybody. But if you're a holding company, you're generating a lot of revenue, at least right now under the tax code, there's a better tax advantage for a C corporation tax structure because you don't have to distribute that to yourself. You can hold that in the corporate structure level and reinvest it. And you can distribute distributions to yourself and pay distribution dividend rates under a C corp, but you don't have to. Under the other things, the S corp, the partnership, or the disregarded entity, those are all pass-through entities. And whether or not you personally take that money out of the business bank account, the IRS is going to want their piece of it and accept that you've received it because you're a pass-through company. So a lot of these decisions come down to what are the tax advantages for you? Where are you? What kind of capitalization structure are you going to start with?
Yeah, I think that's really important, Dave, because most people just come into it and, and I know when they come to me, they're like, hey, look, I've got to build something and I got to get there. And they don't just realize, that it's the tax structure, not really, everything else. The important thing I think about having an entity is to protect you personally, right, from some things that the business does. That happens in the business protects you personally. Because, one of the things I tell my client is you got to build this fortress around you and your family and your wealth. And the choice of an entity helps you do that, correct?
Yeah, exactly. We'll just break them down. You've got sole proprietorship, which just is one man goes out and says, I'm going to create the pizzeria myself. And you have all the liability and all the responsibilities because you have no entity structure. The next level is a general partnership. It's me and my brother that go out and create the pizzeria. Well, the problem with the general partnership is that if he does something wrong, I'm still responsible for it. So then getting into statutory entities, that's where you get a little personal anonymity and protection for your personal assets. A limited liability partnership or a limited partnership, they're all partnerships and they follow partnership agreements between the parties. But you've got that liability limiting how much money did you put into it, and that's where your liability is limited unless you are the person that causes the harm. If I'm working for my partnership and I drive down the road and I run over somebody's toes, well, I'm going to be responsible for that. The limited liability company is the next. It's probably the most common and thought after entity structure. Based upon its flexibility, it can be a tax chameleon. It can be any of the tax 4 categories that we talked about earlier. Plus, it doesn't have as much of the statutory regulatory requirements, doing the minutes, to lose your corporate veil. And then the last one is the incorporated company. And that's really, it's an older vehicle, but it still has its proper place, and probably one of the most reasonable uses of it is going to be if you're going to be in a capital intensive business and you're going to go through several rounds of fundraising and you need that pizzeria structure so you can keep baking pizza pies to sell to the public, keep reissuing shares that you can raise some good capital on.
Cool, Dave. I love that. I love that analogy and how you bring it around. So, Dave, we got to wrap up here. How do people get a hold of you so they can get your knowledge and figure out if they got to get a pizza or a pizzeria?
Sounds good. Thanks, Michael. We're at murphyslawpllc.com as our website address. You can catch us at the office at 281-475-2022. That's us.
All right, David, man, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Enjoy the sunny day out there in Idaho, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, Michael. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Hey, this is Michael Rager, your business guide here on NowMedia Television and all of its networks. We'll be right back with more Biz Talk with Michael Rager.
Hi, my name's Chris Baker, the newest host at Now Media Television. Join us daily for the Chris Baker Show. News, information, commentary, and guaranteed fireworks. That starts January 2nd on the Now Media News Network.
Comprar o vender una propiedad es un paso que impacta su vida y la vida de su familia y sus seres queridos. De hecho, estudios demuestran que tener un grupo de agentes de bienes raíces con experiencia garantiza un mejor precio al momento de vender, comprar o alquilar una propiedad. Si quiere comprar o vender una propiedad, LMS Realty es su solución. Contamos con los recursos y la experiencia para agilizar su transacción con facilidad y alcanzar el mejor precio posible. Al mismo tiempo, LMS Group puede hacer evaluaciones de mercado y podemos proporcionar varias soluciones de financiamiento para encontrarle la casa de sus sueños. Además, LMS Realty puede proporcionar varias soluciones de financiamiento para que pueda tener su casa con un menor costo posible. Tome acción hoy mismo. LMS Realty es su solución ideal.
Hey, welcome back to Biz Talk TV. I'm your business guide and host, Michael Rager. Hey, we got my good friend Matthew Paul. Matthew, how are you doing today, my friend?
I am well. How are you, sir?
Oh, it's another day. It's beautiful. It's sunny out there. Nothing we can complain about, is there?
It's a pretty good day outside.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so today we're going to talk about debt.
Yes.
All right, we talk about debt as a tool. Debt is this thing, but one of the things I know that you specialize is getting rid of it. Mm-hmm. So how do we start looking at eliminating debt in our business and in our personal lives?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, Michael, but the first thing we have to do is to write down what are the amount of debt that you have and how much interest rate you're paying and stuff like that. And then every person is different. There is not like a one size fit all, right? So there are some people who are very motivated and they are aggressive and they know the right thing to do. They just need a plan. For those people, we will try to reduce the interest rates and try to work the way out on the math side. But most of the people, be that business owners or individuals, they are not motivated. They get tired. And for those people who need a little bit of motivation, we use something called debt snowball. And what that means is that we'll pay the lowest amount first. And so you will see the small victories, and that will pump them to take the next step and the next step. Just like, when you step on a scale every morning, and if you see half a pound reduced, you have that motivation to go to the next step. So that's what we apply to people who are less motivated, and that is called debt snowball. But for those people who are motivated, we will work on the interest rates and make sure that they pay less interest.
So are we going to go out and do debt consolidation? Are we going to go fixed versus variable interest rates? How do we go about that? So, and how do we make that decision?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there are several ways to deal with debt, right? Sometimes we have to do consolidations. If they're paying very high interest rates, they have a very good credit score, we will consolidate it into one small payment. consolidation, but that debt is not going away. Consolidation doesn't mean that the debt is going away. We just rearrange the debt just to make it a little bit easier. But again, we have to go back and apply the snowball or the avalanche methodology to make sure that the debt is paid off. And when I say avalanche, I mean paying the highest interest first. But if there is a situation where there is no way they can pay their debt, we will start talking about debt settlements, where we will settle the debt at 50 cents to a dollar, 40 cents to a dollar. There are other consequences to that, at least,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You start going into that, you start doing debt settlements, you start talking about bankruptcies and stuff like that. Because, like, I know during COVID, a lot of businesses went out of business, and stuff like that, and they've had to settle debt. How do you help people get through that?
Yeah, I mean, bankruptcy is the last resort, right? I mean, nobody looks forward to getting bankrupt on day one. So that is the ultimate last resort that we go to. Debt settlements, we have so many clients that is going through that path right now. They did everything they can, and when they do the budgeting and stuff like that, there is not enough cash to pay each and every debt. You default on it, and then we will settle it at the end of the cycle. But most of the time, you don't have to go through that. You have the capability to reduce your debt either through snowball or through avalanche, depending upon who you are.
Even though when you look at snowballing, it's how do I bring in extra cash? Because I know when I started my business, I had no money, right? Mm-hmm. And to make money, I went out and I did rideshare. And I went out and did rideshare, and I had to pay off some debt, and that's what I did. I went and did some other things. It was really funny is sometimes when I was doing rideshare, it was my best marketing. I actually brought in a $12,000 speaking engagement because I did a rideshare. So how do you help people, find that extra cash?
Well, Michael, let me be honest. The unemployment is at its lowest. It's 3.6% right now. And for that means every job that is open, there are half client, or for every client who is looking for a job, there are 2 jobs available. It is pretty easy to find a job these days, and if you are motivated and have that gut feeling that, hey, that is something that is hurting me, I need to get out of it, we can find ways to find them employed.
Yeah. So, as a business owner though, but how do you struggle then? Because, hey, I'm running a business, I'm probably not working 40 hours, I'm working 50, 60. I got to go get some other money. How else can I look at this and make sure I take my snowball and turn it into an avalanche as quick as possible?
Correct. So this goes back to what we discussed last time, right? We apply the profit first. So when we do that, we will look at all the expenses and make sure that your expenses are under control. We will go through every single cost structure. Hey, how much are you paying for electricity? How much are you paying for your consumers? How much are you paying for the credit card statements? The credit card processing fees that we talked about that last time. So when we go through all those expenses, there will be a way to find additional cash. And once you find that cash, it's easy to go and put extra money onto your debt.
Yeah, that's really strong because, as we talked about, I think in our first segment, debt's a tool, and if we use it correctly, it can really help us grow our business. But if we use it incorrectly, it can really damage us and hurt us in the right way. I think you do a lot of stuff with Dave Ramsey, right? And he calls it the poor tax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but here's the thing. See, I agree with what you said, but Michael, the truth of the story is that most of the people in this country don't know how to use debt, and since you don't know how to use debt, I asked them to stay away, right? We used the example of a chainsaw first time. If you don't know how to use chainsaw, stay away from it. And so that's what we highly recommend. Look at all the businesses. 90% of them fail in the first 4 or 5 years, and then they will end up with all this debtors and creditors, and then they are responsible for all this stuff.
Yeah, it is. It can be really frustrating in a downhill thing for that. So, how do people get a hold of you? How do they work with you? And what's it like working with Matthew Paul and his team?
Yeah, so the very first time a business owner or a personal client calls us, we will have a free consultation. The first thing we are trying to make sure that we can actually help you. If we cannot help you, we will tell you we cannot, and then we will refer you to people that can do bankruptcies and things like that. But if we decide to work together, we will try to get a P&L of your business or a budget for your personal life, and we will look all the transactions and see how we can reduce the cost structure. If we can reduce the cost structure and if we can change the pricing and stuff like that so that you can bring a little bit more revenue, then we will go into the debts part. We will go through line by line by line, try to reduce the interest rates, and then try to put together a plan to pay off the debt.
I'm going to tell you, Matthew, here's the one thing I tell all your business owners that are there. You want to make more money, raise your prices.
Well, raise your prices because the price only becomes a point in the absence of value, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. The price is only a problem in the absence of value. Yeah. And if you're getting value, price is not a problem, and people are willing to pay for it.
Yeah, no, I remember when I first got into coaching, we had a client that had a donut shop, and we raised prices 19 times before somebody said something.
Yeah.
People aren't going to get there, and here's what I tell them: if 20% of your people aren't complaining, your price too low. You just got to make some more money, and that's all it is. You just got to go out there and get some more cash flow. So, Matthew, man, any last words of wisdom you want to share before we close this segment out?
Yeah, well, you know what? If you are a business owner and you are working 50, 60, 70 hours and not making a dime of yourself, and you are not enjoying your business at this point, it's time to have a reset, a timeout. Look yourself, what you're doing wrong, and hire a business coach. Make sure that you are doing the right thing. Go get a financial guy on your side, because finance is the blood of business, and if the finance is not coming and going in the right direction, you will bleed to death pretty soon. So contact one of us. We will be more than happy to sit with you and give a free evaluation, and if you don't like, that's fine. But if you like, more than happy to sit with you and get you out of the mess that you are in right now.
Hey, that's right. You got to listen to my guy. He's going to tell you to come talk to me. So
absolutely. I always tell that you need to have a business coach, a financial advisor, a CPA, all those people on your side, because they're all coming as a team for you.
All right. Well, thanks, Matthew. I love it. Every time you're on here is always a great time. This is Michael Rager, your business guide. We're going to be right back. We're going to talk a little bit of tech with our good friend Roland right after this.
Working through the legal system is challenging and risky, especially if you don't have the right attorney at your side. Hi, my name is Sonia Aston, and I'm an attorney with over 30 years of experience. I've helped small and medium-sized businesses and business owners to make sure that their legal rights and interests are protected. As general counsel for you and your organization, I can draft and review solid contracts, minimize the risk of litigation, review and prepare comprehensive business succession plans, or help you navigate your company with the local, state, and federal government. Take a decisive step today. I'm here to make sure your legal rights are protected and you have a peace of mind that you deserve.
Hey, I'm your business guide, Michael Rager, and I'm back with Biz Talk TV here on the NowMedia TV networks. I got my good friend Roland. All right, Roland, I'm telling you, I just got used to Windows 10, and now you're talking to me about Windows 11. What the heck's going on?
Michael, great to be back on the show. And you know, Windows 11, Windows 10, Microsoft are always pushing a new operating system, but there are some very good reasons why you should stay with Windows 10. So if you want, we can jump straight into that.
Well, yeah, because I just figured it out. I'm not a techie guy. I just got used to Windows 10.
So Microsoft have been pushing Windows 11 for a while, and they are saying it's more secure, which there are some security features. So let's look at Windows 11. Windows 11 requires you to have an 8th generation Intel processor or greater or newer, and it's got to have a TPM 2.0 chip. Well, what does it even mean to the average user? Well, if you go to look at your computer settings, it'll tell you what version. If it says like i5 dash and it's got some digits after that, if it's -7, that means it's 7th generation. That means that it's not going to be capable of running Windows 11 on their recommended settings. And the TPM 2.0 is just a chip that's on the computer that enables BitLocker encryption. So Microsoft are trying to do a big push to say they're encouraging everybody to have fully encrypted hard drives. That means that if your computer gets stolen, the hard drive's encrypted. The bad guys cannot get into it. But let's break that down a little bit further. So do you really need it? Our honest opinion at the moment is if you're running a machine on Windows 10 and you're not having any problems, I wouldn't recommend going to Windows 11 quite yet unless you're totally sold on some of the new features, the way that it looks. You're perfectly safe with staying with Windows 10 until October 2025. And then you can make the decision. you may be getting pop-ups on your computer saying, upgrade now, upgrade now. Don't really do it, because there's a couple of things that you want to do first. The first thing is, look at all the programs that you're running, and are they Windows 11 compatible? Because if they're not fully compatible, what's going to happen? You're going to upgrade to Windows 11, then you're going to have some issues. The second thing is, look at your processor. If your processor is too old, I wouldn't recommend doing it. One, you have got a way to bypass it, because Microsoft have said, don't do it if it's older than 8th generation, but you can bypass it. If you don't have that security module, the TPM 2.0 chip, don't do it. But again, there's a way to bypass it. The danger with bypassing it and loading on Windows 11 is that then you run the risk that you're not going to be getting Windows updates. So if you're not going to get the Windows updates, your machine's going to be more vulnerable because it's not getting the security updates that it needs to protect against the latest risks that are out there. So it's just a double whammy default. Don't do it. Don't force it. Stay with Windows 10. Your programs are going to run. You're not going to have any issues. And then as you get closer to that end of support life of October 2025, at that point you can decide, you know what, now my machine is another 2.5 years older. I've had a 4-year-old machine, now it's 6.5, 7 years old.
Let me ask you that, because I haven't had a 4-year-old machine. I haven't had a machine last 4 years in a decade. You know, it seems like they're pretty much disposable now. You know, because the point, we can get solid machines for $1,100, $1,200, $1,300. They last us 3 years for $300 a year. We turn around and go get a new one. You look at it as a business owner, it's $25 a month.
And you're going to get the optimum performance.
Right.
So that's the other thing. If you try and get it Windows 11 running on an older machine, you're going to see an extra 10% degradation in performance just because of the resources that the operating system is going to take up. So quite honestly, stay with Windows 10. Don't do the upgrade. When it comes down to October 2025, get yourself a new machine and just go with Windows 11 off the bat, and then you're not going to have any compatibility issues.
Right. So probably, you know, my machine, I think here is 2 years old. It lasts another 18 months. 18 months, I'm going to go get a new machine, and then it's time to upgrade.
And at that point, you're probably going to be forced to get a Windows 11 machine because it's not going to have an option.
You're not going to give me 10 anyways. You know,
so then it's like, okay, when you get a new machine, but you know, Microsoft does these things where they say, we're going to try and force you to go Windows 11.
Right.
You know, they did the same thing with Windows 10 when people were happy with Windows 7. Just, there's no point in doing it. Keep with Windows 10. Stick with what you know. It's working. You're secure. Keep your updates done. Keep your malware bytes and your antivirus up to date. And when it comes to closer towards that Windows 10 end of life date of October 2025, just buy yourself a new machine, be done with it, and you're going to be good to go.
Well, great, man. That's some great information, because good, I don't want to learn it yet. I'm telling you, man. So, Roland, how do people get a hold of you so they can talk to you about, you know, anything that goes wrong with their machines or, you know, with their IT right now?
Best thing to do, give us a call, 281-647-9977, or reach us on the web at impresscomputers.tech. You can also reach us at the .com, and that's got the storefront where if you wanted to buy Windows 10 or 11 or buy a new or refurbished machine, you can do that from the storefront at the impresscomputers.com. And if you're looking for IT support, reach us at the .tech website.
Well, that's awesome. You know, I always love when you come in and we can talk about the stuff that I hate, because that's why I got to have a guy like you around, because when this stuff happens, I was telling you before, you know, we had one of our machines in our team went wacky this week, and you don't have to get it fixed.
You know, when you get that pop-up, if you do Control-Shift-Escape, bring up your task manager and end that browser, or in the worst case, just shut the machine down, get it to your IT guy, and get it cleaned up.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, thanks a lot, Roland. I appreciate it. We're looking forward to seeing you next week. So, man, I'm your business guide, Michael Rager. I want to wrap up this show. This has been awesome. I mean, we've had this great flow of talking about, you know, hey, I'm starting a business. This is going to happen. We talked a little bit about how to set up the right entities. We talked about, you know, ending your business. But, you know, come with me and find out a little bit. I do something called Whiteboards and Whiskey. We do it on the first Wednesday of the month. you can come out. Well, you're going to talk about a little, some good things. It's exactly what we talk about. We have some really good whiskey. We sit around and we talk about the number one challenge that business owners have, and we sit there and whiteboard it all out. It's the thing you need to do. You need to come out and just, meet some of your fellow business owners and talk about them, and you're going to be amazed at how many of you guys are going through the same struggles. And what happens if you can come through a mastermind together and talk about it, we can solve challenges at a much quicker rate. So I'm your business guide, Michael Rager. Thanks for joining